Hey everyone, so if you're like me and you've got one of these inexpensive GE washers, then you're likely to have experienced this terrible shaking and vibration that can happen. I've noticed it happening for the last couple of months. Sometime during the wash cycle, the whole machine will start to shake and make a huge racket, and so we're going to open it up and see if we can't figure it out. Now, the likely cause of this is either a severely out of balance motor or wash tub, or most likely for these particular models, there's a counterweight opposite the motor underneath the wash tub, and that counterweight is just a piece of concrete that can come dislodged, or the bracket can get messed up, and then once that's out of balance, the whole thing will start to shake. So there's a kit you can buy for the replacement block if yours has totally fallen out and broken into pieces. We'll see if we need to do that for this one in particular, but if not, we'll be able to find some new bolts and hold it back into place. So the first thing we're going to do is take off this front panel. So there's actually two tabs in here that line up with the end of the lid, the sides of the lid. So there's just some tabs in there. Just jam a flat blade screwdriver in there and should be able to pop it open. That, and then it just lifts up, and we'll go ahead and set this over here. So now we'll take a look and see what the issue might be. The first thing to take a look at is these suspension rods seem to be intact and secured, so the wash tub itself is not actually the problem. There's some rods in the back too. But everything seems to be secure from this point, so we'll keep on looking. So in this particular case, it actually looks like that concrete block counterweight is loose. So it actually looks like the right side bolt, when you're looking at it from the front, is loose, and so this block can slide around. It doesn't appear to be damaged or cracked, so it's likely that we can just replace the bolts and or find a new way to secure it, and we should be good to go. So now we're going to actually go ahead and take it apart. Of course, we want to make sure that it's unplugged. Next, we want to take this lid off. And by lid, I mean this entire assembly. And so in order to do that, there are a couple of small screws in here, and we want to take off the little magnet sensor as well. So here we just have two 1/4 inch screws to take out. This magnetic switch is just held on by a little clip here, so you just push it in at the top, and then we're going to slide this out the hole here. Pops out like so. So next we have these rubber straps to take off. There's 4 of them. They are 5/16. undo some of the electrical connectors that lead to this assembly, because this whole thing is going to come out. There's also a ground connection here, so we want to make sure we get that off. So now we've just disconnected this hose that connects the washer pump to the bottom of the wash tub. It was a 5/16 nut driver to take this apart. Make sure you have a towel down to catch any water that might leak out. So now we're going to take off these rods that support the tub. So to do that, we're going to pinch in these ends and lift the tub up out of here. Make sure any other hoses are disconnected. I'm going to use a screwdriver in the back side of there to try to poke those things out while trying to hold it up in the air. That works surprisingly well. So now we're going to go ahead and pull that thing out, flip it over, and take a look at that concrete block. So this is that concrete block. So you can see that it's just opposite the motor, and it sits here just to go ahead and balance out the motor, but ours is actually a little bit loose. 3/8 socket to go ahead and take it apart. Alright, so I dug around in the garage and came up with a little bit of a solution that's free, and hopefully it works for several more years. The idea is there was 2 holes that were originally used to mount this cross bracket with these 2 bolts, but these bolts kept coming loose. So we're going to add a couple of lock washers to these bolts, and we're going to reuse these bolts because they don't appear to be broken or anything wrong with them. They were just loose, and these lock washers should help with that. So these will go in these 2 holes, but there's actually a 3rd hole here which does line up with this center hole on this block, and there was just nothing there. So I went ahead and cut a piece of 1/4-20 all thread with a large washer for the top and then a smaller one for the bottom. And so what we're going to end up doing here is tapping this lower hole to accept this 1/4-20 rod. So we've got a small tap here, and that will allow us to put a 3rd bolt in here, which will hopefully keep this more secure for the rest of the life of this washing machine. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and set the block back in place. We're going to put the other two in first because they're easier to get to, the original two. And then we're going to put in this third one, which looks something like this. That way, with this tapped, this will be able to be tightened against here, and then another nut will be added on the back side to help keep it secure. You can actually see where the wobbling of the block started to wallow out this opening because of the little teeth on the back of this washer head that's built in here. So we're going to flip this over to start fresh. Alright, now that that center one is nice and tight, we're going to go ahead and put another nut on this side to help lock it down. Looks like the lock washer won't really fit due to the lip on here, so we're just going to go ahead with the nut by itself. It'll certainly help out. Snug that up. Now we're going to snug up the outside too, and we should be good to go. Alright, everything's nice and tight. Time to reassemble it. getting to the spin cycle with no vibrations. So now we're ramping up. It's much smoother than it ever has been.